Now the arithmetic for y equals 1 over x, we list our values and we list them whether we think we can evaluate them or not. And then if we find that it's impossible to evaluate them, we omit them. But it turns out it's possible to evaluate every one of these. They're not difficult. Okay? So, if x equals -2, y equals 1 over x, well, that would be 1 over -2, which of course is just -1/2. When y is -1, it's 1 over -1, which equals -1. When y is -1/2, it's 1 over -1/2. Now, you might not remember how to work with fractions. So let's just write it out to the side here. First of all, A divided by B is the same as, well, actually, now that, you're going to find that confusing. I'm not going to say it that way. I could. But I'm just going to say, okay, I'm just going to illustrate the rule and we'll worry about the formality of it later. This means 1 divided by -1/2, because that's what it means. 1 over -1/2 means 1 divided by -1/2. And when you divide by a fraction, you multiply by its reciprocal. And you certainly have seen that, whether you remember it right off the top of your head or not. So if you got to look up dividing fractions, it's pretty simple. You know, whatever's here divided by a fraction is going to be multiplied by the reciprocal of the fraction. And that, of course, is -2. So 1 over -1/2 is -2. Now what about 1 over 0? I said we could evaluate this thing for every number, and I was actually wrong. Well, 1 over 0 is undefined. It's not 0. A to the 0 is never 0. It's always 1. If you put a 0 in here, it's a serious problem because the graph is going to end up very distorted. You're not going to see what you need to see in the graph. Your graph is not going to represent the function and you're going to be messed up. So you have to understand. First of all, the rule is 1 over 0 is undefined. Also, understand why it doesn't make sense. How many zeros does it take to make 1? You can't make 1 out of zeros. Okay, then you have 1 over 1/2, which is 2 for the same reason here. You multiply by the reciprocal of 1/2, it's 1 times 2 over 1, which is 1 times 2, gives you 2. 1 over 1 is 1, and this is 1 over 2, and you don't have to do anything with that, it's 1/2. So that if you now sketch the graph, -2, 2, subdivide, subdivide, label this 1, label this -1, I'm sorry, and label this 1, label this 1/2, label 1/2, this 1/2. Okay, so when x is -2, y is -1/2. So we better have a y-axis that goes from, well,